shit.
And there you go. Now we're live. We don't have to argue about it. We could just say, hey, it's live.
Wow,
Isn't that nice?
That was incredible. Nice.
I had fun with AI.
I love that. Did you really?
Chinese AI, but still it was AI.
Dude, you're like the nerdiest guy I've ever met in my life. It's funny because you have this like, you've got this like manly fucking look at me, but you're not a look at me guy. You're like, you're jacked. You're like, look at you. You're a fucking man. And what
Man
people
can
know
like
about my friend,
geeky things.
totally. But you don't present as a geek.
We've
You
had
don't
this
present
conversation before,
as
Dean.
a nerd, but you're such a nerd. I love it. Welcome to the Fivestack, everybody. That is
I'm a total
Zev
nerd.
Shalev. Real quick before we get into it, my name is Dean. You can find Zev at narrative.org. Myself at deanblundell.substack.com. My God, to be surrounded with such beautiful individuals on a day like today, to talk about the very specific things we're talking about, not just me with my dirty mouth, not just Zev with his incredible investigative mind. We brought in a ringer because one of the greatest ironies in the world is taking place in Ukraine with Donald Trump getting on his knees going, pretty please, I need some drones, please. And we have a drone intelligence expert right here, Mr. Denver Riggleman, former congressman, ladies and gentlemen. Ben.
Yay. Who's in front of a Canadian flag, which is kind of amazing. And
I'm blinking in Morse code because I'm in a Canadian interrogation room right now.
Yeah. We're going to get the truth out of you, Denver. We're going to get it all out of you.
He's at my house. He's upstairs. I'm downstairs. And we have so much going on today. He and I have been in and out of meetings for the past few days. We are going to save America. We are going to protect Canada. But I mean, the wealth of knowledge that Denver has of our second subject today, we have 5 things to get to, which is drone warfare, which is now Ukraine has become so important to NATO. Ukraine has become so important to the United States and everybody in that area of the world with all hell breaking loose in Iran and the Middle East that we needed to have Denver on this podcast. And he's busy working. So he said he'd take some time out to come and join us to talk about that today. We've got a few stories to get to, so we'll get to that in just a second. But more importantly, he and I have been so buried with like meetings and all the other shit that comes with what we're doing together. And the fascinating part here is that we missed a story today about Epstein being a drug runner. Is that the number 5 story on the countdown?
Yeah, the number 5 story on the countdown today, and it stuns me because I just saw it a few minutes ago and I was like, whoa, how did this happen? Let me tell you about it. So Bloomberg just dropped a bombshell. This is Jason Leopold, who's a great reporter. He reports that the DEA opened a secret investigation into Jeffrey Epstein in 2015, centered on money laundering, drug trafficking, and the procurement of Eastern European prostitutes for high-profile clients. And we first learned about this in the DOJ Epstein files release, but now there's a lot more detail. This wasn't just the sex crimes case everyone knows about. This was a separate probe that grew out of Operation Chain Reaction, a long-running investigation into organized crime targeting associates of the Genovese crime family. An informant told federal agents that Epstein was involved in the funding and distribution of club drugs, including ecstasy, ketamine, and methamphetamines, and that he ran a prostitution ring. The DEA's Special Operations Division led the investigation. That's the unit that works with 34 agencies, yada, 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 get all that. But, I mean, I'm not really that surprised. I don't know if Denver, are you surprised by any of that?
No, and I want to talk to something. It's pretty profound. I hope you guys are ready for the profundity that I'm about to drop here, and you guys can comment on it. Criminals that crime usually do other crimes because they like to crime. And I think, when I look at Don, thank you very much. I thought you guys would love that. But Dean, what do you think? I think when you look at Donald Trump, right, a felon, and you look at the people that he was with, I guess that downstream effect, what I'm hoping there are people connecting, is that I don't think it's a real surprise that Epstein was involved in a litany of crimes based on his past. And, I would say that drug running is minor compared to child rape, child prostitution, sexual assault, sexual abuse, and all that. So, I think to me, it's just a natural evolution of who he was as a human being.
It is interesting. It's connected to the Genovese family, which ties into Donald Trump and it's, his roots in the mob world. We might find out one day that Donald Trump was involved in a drug running operation because It's interesting, Dean, and you've covered this as well, that when they came to office the second time around, they shut down all these investigations into cartels, into drug running, into all these other things, which may have included this investigation into Epstein.
Yeah, as many avenues that you can shut down, you do when you're the president of the United States and you're an adjudicated rapist and a 34-time felon who laundered money for the Russian and Italian mob for 40 fucking years. I think there's a decent chance Donald Trump is involved in this too. I think Riggs would call it, well, duh, right? Like, well, fucking duh. And listen, one of the things that I think is really important, and we're going to kind of downstream this in just a second. One of the things I think everybody needs to kind of keep in mind is that Donald Trump is an international criminal and has been for the better part of 4 fucking decades. And that international criminal syndicate that he works with wasn't just looking for secrets. They were looking for a way to wash rubles in the United States of America. They were looking for a way to traffic fucking drugs. They were looking for a way to sell information back and forth and fuck up the monetary system here in Canada and the United States and abroad. And fuck, they did it. They did it for 40 years. And so, this story, even though I haven't read it, connects with a bunch of information that we all have readily available at our fingertips. And that is Donald Trump has spent the better part of this first year of his presidency, right? Mm-hmm. He has spent the better part of that year bringing the Sinaloa cartel into the United States and relocating them across the United States, blowing up fishing boats of belonging to the drug cartel in the United States that didn't belong to the Sinaloa cartel. He also pardoned the former president of Honduras, if you remember that, Mr. Riggleman, maybe you can comment on that too, who was a kingpin in the Sinaloa cartel, serving 45 fucking years, who said, and I quote at one point, "Let's get the cocaine up the gringos' noses."
That's a good line. That was a good line. That was
years. And so when you get pardoned from that, and then you're bringing the Sinaloa cartel into the United States, and then we get information that, oh my God, Jeffrey Epstein, along possibly with Donald Trump, may have been running drugs. You're like, oh, okay, the dominoes start to make sense, Congressman Riggleman, do they not?
They do. And, I've said this so many times, and I know you and Zeb have heard me say this, and I hate to do it again, but past performance is usually indicative of future performance. Yeah. And I think when you're looking at somebody, Dean did talk about felonies, but I think it is the pardon of the Honduras president. I think that ripple effect, and looking at the article right now about Epstein, I would hope that people are paying attention to what's going on, because you also talk about, was it the 53 pages of redacted files? I'm trying to remember the exact number, where they're trying to hide what Trump actually did, or at least what the accusations were against him. So I think, Zev, the fact that you're doing this Fivestack and you start off with this story is pretty important to people, because everybody connected to Trump seems to have some kind of dire past. And even the people downstream, the cascading effect is every single layer of this seems to get worse and worse. And for me as an American citizen in Toronto right now, it's so embarrassing and shameful. But I think knowing that we have this criminal kakistocracy that surrounded this felon, this adjudicated sexual abuser, it's really hard for somebody like me who served my country, who is in Congress, to get my arms around it. And I know that it's insane and we laugh about it, but there's also this sense of dread that our country's been really snookered by some of the worst people we can imagine.
Oh, yeah. I think that's really true. I mean, that's exactly what's been going on. Just look at this one chapter here. There's one paragraph here. Last year, Bloomberg News reported that OCD ETF, that's the organization that was investigating some of this, was defunded and shut down amid the Trump administration's cost-cutting spree, sparking alarm among law enforcement officers, given the task force's achievements over the decades, which included a leading role in the 2019 capture of the Sinaloa cartel leader, El Chapo. The administration transferred various responsibilities, including 5,000 existing cases, to a new set of task forces under the Department of Homeland Security that are focused mainly on immigration enforcement. And that's that hedge we've been seeing all along. They keep focusing on immigration, taking everyone off the beat from FBI offices and just pushing everyone into these immigration pursuits. And what you land up with is no one's investigating these drug crimes. No one's investigating these networks. And in this case, the Genovese crime family, amongst others, get away, with running these illegal drug businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? It's funny how we can kind of reach into the ether when we see certain decisions that have been made that you've just pointed out, which is getting rid of the cartel task force, which is ending all the investigations, reappropriating that attention from those institutions that are meant to protect Americans from the drug war. And this is the same guy who, without fear or favor, without any receipts, without any information whatsoever to the alternative, is telling us that he's won the war on drugs because he blew up some fucking fishing boats in the Mediterranean, right?
No.
And coincidentally, a lot of those fishing boats, some of them did have drug cartel people on them, but they were not Sinaloa cartel. They were a
Right.
different cartel, the one that Donald Trump doesn't like, the one that Donald Trump doesn't want to have anything to do with. And so, if you think about it from a perspective of those historic relationships, in Denver, I would ask you this question: if you think about those historic relationships, and the man that is involved in this, doesn't that now require sort of a new and fresh set of eyes to look at what's going on in the Mediterranean, what's going on in Venezuela, not just oil, what is going on with his military adventurism in certain parts of the world, or thoughts or ideas or rhetoric around military adventurism in Cuba, in Mexico, in Nicaragua, in Ecuador? To me, this gives us an entirely new narrative and a conversation that we have to start having, because if you're looking at just the actions involved without any explanation of those actions, of the fishing boats, the pardoning of the Honduran president who is a Sinaloa cartel king fucking pin, we have a brand new fucking scam, a brand new grift. We've got a brand new a really serious problem that I think you have to assume Donald Trump is deeply involved in as the president of the United States.
The last
You,
time oh, go ahead, Zev.
no,
Sorry.
no, please go ahead. Sorry.
The last time I was on here, we had an incredible conversation, and Zev and you, about the difference between criminal conspiracies and conspiracy theories. And when you start putting data points together, when you start looking at
Mm,
pardoning of certain individuals, when you start looking at the fact that Trump had these relationships with Epstein, that Trump is already a felon, what he did with his casinos, the fact that his companies have been not only accused of fraud, but adjudicated of fraud, and that he's an adjudicated sexual abuser, his relationships with some of the exact same people, the fact that he has defunded the very groups that were investigating these lines. You do have to start asking these questions, not of are we looking at conspiracy theories, but are we looking at criminal conspiracies? And there's a huge difference.
mm,
Conspiracy theories are based on vapor, or they're based on past historical belief systems that might not be true, or things that might be true, but that are actually predilected or actually predicted onto, or imaged onto something that might look like it, but it's not, and people are credulous or have no critical thinking. Criminal conspiracies are totally different. And Zev, as you bring up this article, and we bring up who he has pardoned, and we bring up his past, his criminal past, you have to start thinking that maybe, just maybe, it could be that some of these groups are being defunded, whether by accident or on purpose. And this is what I want to tell people. There's a saying in the military: whether you get shot on purpose or shot on accident, you're still getting shot.
Hmm.
That's what we're looking at right here. Whether it's on purpose or incompetence of these specific law enforcement activities and investigative units that have been defunded, it doesn't
mm,
change the facts
mhm.
or the
And it's
data
happened in
that's
everything.
involved.
It's
Yes.
happened with all the companies that were investigating Elon Musk's, or all the task forces investigating Elon Musk's companies. Those were also shut down. Now, it might be that, you're just shutting down every investigation that exists, but ultimately it does look pretty weird that all his people, all his network, they're the ones getting protected. And his own investigations into his own universe are also getting eliminated, while others are continuing, against stupid things like, is the victim of an ICE shooting and a domestic terrorist. I mean, what a waste of time is that? And they can now investigate these drug running exercises by people who are associated with him. That's
Mm.
got to be more than just a coincidence. That's got to be deliberate.
Yeah, Zev, and let me put it to you this way, my friend. It doesn't matter if it's deliberate or coincidence.
Right.
It's opaque. So it's one of these kinds of things of, like, you're an investigative reporter that digs into the actual facts, and you stack them based on past performance, based on the person that's happened to. We can make an assumption that some of this looks purposeful. What we have to do, and that's why I'm like, this is very good. This is incredible that you guys are putting this together. But the fact of the matter is, whether it's purposeful or not, we have a real problem because the activities of Donald Trump are becoming opaque, and we have less an ability of the American people to know what he's doing based on the lack of funding lines and the investigative, I would say, organizations that have been shut down. That you're saying this today, Zev, is so important to your audience, because your audience can now say, listen, we don't care how it's happening, and we need more of an investigative push on this specifically. And I think, again, that's why it's so important to cover these topics.
It is. We should get into the second story, because I know you've got a limited time with us, and I really want to hear your thoughts about what's going on with Ukraine. So this is story number 4. The one side, Russia appears to be helping Iran with targeting American targets in the Middle East during this war, which is stunning on the face of it. I mean, just because these are our new allies, supposedly. And then America needs help from Ukraine to actually organize these drones and to fight against the Iranian drone strikes. I mean, you know more about this than I do, but it's a stunning set of events that is just complete. It's ironic and a turnaround.
Oh, Zev,
That's
I gotta,
putting it lightly. It's ironic and it's a turnaround, dude. This is Schadenfreude at its fucking greatest. Like, you will never see a better example of eat the shit, guys. Eat the shit. Sorry, Den, go ahead.
No. You're okay. I also used to say, and I like to say, stupidity is terminal. So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that you have is, if we have Russian intelligence helping, right, the Iranians with drone strikes and specific targeting, and we are weak in our ability to actually defend against drone attacks and strikes, think about the cascading effect of Donald Trump's decision making to enter into this war. That's the first thing. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah.
What that actually means. Okay. The second part is this.
Well, explain it. Explain it then, because what do you mean by that?
Sure. So we enter a war with Iran. We've been very, very soft on Russia. We have really sort of withdrawn from full support for Ukraine, or even sometimes marginal support for Ukraine. Russia believes they have freedom of movement and freedom of intelligence services to our enemies like Iran. Russia and Iran, I don't know, people, they had just signed a treaty not too long ago. I mean, should we have maybe looked at that as mission planners and military planners? So now we have the Russians, you would think, now you have the Russians helping downstream with the Iranians to target specific geolocations. That's very important, what I'm telling everybody right now. They have specific intelligence on a target set, and we're such idiots, since we haven't been supporting Ukraine. We don't even have the ability to defend against drone attacks in a way that the Ukrainians have been able to do over the last 4 years. So now the very country that we have actually abandoned, that's going against a country that Trump has been friendly with, which is Putin, are the very ones killing our soldiers.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It.
That is when incompetence and a lack of any ability to see the field destroys not only American lives, but our ability to do business worldwide. And here's the other thing. I am probably the only sitting congressman who has run from a Shahed. Okay. And I am, or a former congressman that has run from a Shahed. I'm probably the only one who's been in a drone attack.
Which is an Iranian drone. People should know that. They may not know that it's an Iranian-made drone, right?
Yeah, Iranian-made. Well, so they're Iranian-designed drones that are now mass-produced by Russia, which are Shaheds. Right now, there's FPV drones and there's fiber optic drones. If you guys ever want to go into a drone thing, I am happy. To
drones
engage.
are interesting.
They're very interesting. But what we're doing right now, we're shooting multiple $100,000 missiles, hundreds of thousands of dollars at one drone that might cost between $20,000 and $50,000. It's built. That's carrying a 5 to 40 kilogram payload.
Yeah.
Right. That's an actual suicide drone, a big old Shahed that looks like a little tiny stealth fighter going through, but it's not. Trust me. They even had wooden propellers at the beginning. We can go into all kinds of this. Yes, absolutely. So you have all this going on, right? But the Ukrainians are actually reverse engineering the Shaheds so they can actually target them better. Also, they've learned how to go after them, not only with FPV drones, but also with ramming drones, but they have other ways of jamming the drones. And that's what we did not know, is how do you do specific drone warfare for a low, slow flyer with a bunch of explosives? We have to go to the Ukrainians now. The reason that's so important is because we will expend our munitions if we're firing highly classified, highly sensitive weapons at low and slow flying drones that are carrying a lot of explosive. We are not prepared. America's not prepared because we're short-sighted. We have a stupid national command authority, and we have people in charge that are incompetent. You put that all together, and you have an administration that's enriching themselves instead of caring about the American citizenry, what we have is we have death and destruction on a scale we can't imagine. The Iranians have the advantage because they have $92 million people, and they have the Russians helping them with intelligence, and we can't defend against drones. We got to go to the Ukrainians because they're the best in the world.
It's kind of stunning. I mean, it's not like they didn't know.
Yeah. Like, listen, a lot of things that people don't understand about Denver is that he is an expert when it comes to targeting and verification. He's an expert. He owns an AI company. Rig is what it's called. And Rig's job, what he does, is what we're talking about, which is identifying target. Can you explain that? Explain the target identification process. Explain why what you just said is so vitally important when it comes to the narrative around Donald Trump literally on his hands and knees, forcing other people to go on their hands and knees to ask Zelensky for some help, which Zelensky gracefully yesterday said, of course we will help you. We're sending Ukrainians to help you understand how to target these drones today. But explain that targeting, explain what you do, because I think it's really important. At cost.
At cost, right? So what's really interesting about the Russian way of doing business now, say with fiber optics or Shaheds, and what we're seeing right now from the Iranians, is that in order to actually target, there's two different ways of targeting. It can be redundant. They can either use electro-optical, which is they can use a camera, right? And they can actually, they have an operator that says, oh, there it is, and it's got a little cross on it. And they, I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but they also have GPS weaponry, right? Where they have a GPS coordinate and they can actually put that drone on a GPS coordinate, right? Or there's a combination thereof. The issue that you have with the Russians helping to target is that they're giving them very clear imagery, but also places that they might not have understand based on early warning radars, targeting radars, the type of things that we utilize to monitor the airspace around us, but to also look at what's coming long range, like over the horizon and things of that nature. What we're getting with the Russians and the Iranians is that they're giving the Iranians very specific coordinates, but also very specific imagery. Now they have a coordinate, they have imagery, they know what they're going to attack. What we do, right, is if you're actually going out, right, and you're trying to do auto identification, which they're getting towards, is swarming. And my biggest fear is that they're going to be starting putting out Shaheds and groups and AI swarms that are actually talking back and forth to each other as they're going to target. So instead of 1, you get 5. Instead of 5, you get 10. And there's no humans in the loop. Zeb, there's no humans in the loop. They're already preset coordinates and they're preset. Now, are they to that point yet? Maybe not. But what Dean and I are here doing in Canada is we're building that type of capability at a very localized mission set. And I can't go into too much more like right now. But the thing so go ahead.
No, I'm curious. If you've got these drones that are swarming targets and they're all figuring out what the target is as they're going, I guess they're all sort of autonomously talking to each other and saying, that looks like building X, that looks like building Y, that's the person we're going after, let's go shoot that person. Do you need the space? Do you need the satellite stuff? Or does that stuff all work on, you need the satellite stuff to talk to the drones, but do you need the satellite imagery? Or is that not necessary anymore in a world where you could just send these drones in with swarms?
Once it's uploaded where they're going, they definitely have to have a link. Right, because they have to talk to each other. There's definitely there's a connectivity issue, right? But it's just a deconfliction. It's not where it's so funny. People are like, oh my God, the drones are like, hey Joe, you see that building? I'm going to kill that when you go get Bob. I see him walking on the drones aren't doing that. All they're doing is deconflicting with each other in the airspace so they don't run into each other. Right. That's all they're doing. But they're already preset with targets. It's really not as complex as people think. But the thing is that once they do a fire and forget like that, they still have to have those uplinks so they can be jammed. But the biggest fear that I have, well, I don't even want to go into it, but I think that's the issue that you have right now is that they can go onesie twosie right now. They're very hard to shoot down. But my biggest fear is that we're coming into a place in this world that the way that we shoot down drones cannot keep up with them saturating the air environment with drones with preset targets. And I think that's what we're going to see next in drone warfare. I hope that helps.
So that's a fucking great answer and frightening at the same time. But and I'm glad you held back the more frightening information. You're like, I can't even talk about that right now. Because Denver has such a deep understanding. This is what he does. He's got a company that it's a cutting edge company that identifies these targets and verifies these targets and does it in a variety of ways in a variety of different layers that meet certain requirements. And when we're talking specifically about the requirements that the United States needs, this is, this is what I find to be unbelievable, Denver, is that we've literally had the privilege of watching the Ukrainian peoples and their ingenuity, out of desperation, create the most fearsome drone technology in the world. They are the leaders in the world. Canada has a deal with Ukraine, a security deal to help us understand the technology and build the same technology so that we can protect Canada, but more importantly, we can support our allies around the world. So, question that I have for you after all that crazy context, I'm a context guy. The question that I have for you is, how the fuck is the world's most fearsome military machine watching
So
this go on
unprepared.
for 4 years? Now, after starting a war with Iran, go through fucking 4 years of munitions in 4 fucking days. And how are they so unprepared to defend their interests in the fucking region to the point where they can't stop six? And somehow the Ukrainian people can stock 700 in one night for years. Years. Were they not watching? Were they not paying attention? I mean, this also goes back to the Biden
It's all
administration.
it's
And
Biden's fault. It really is Biden's
I'm not
fault, you know.
hanging this on Biden either, but I'm saying, like, at some point,
Ooh, this is going to get
was
juicy. I
was the
can't wait to
United
get to
States
this.
was the oh good, I'm ready, I'm ginning you up, I'm taking you down that road. Was the United
Uh,
States just like, we don't really know what's going on there, but we got some fucking F-18s, we can bring down a $20,000 drone at a cost of $2 million per fucking missile? Like, I mean, the cost analysis here alone is ridiculous, but the unpreparedness 4 days into this to go, we're out of weapons, what do we do?
I
Fucking
mean, they
call
knew drones
Zelensky.
were
It's
coming.
fucking unbelievable to me.
I mean, the military knows the drones
Right?
were
Yes.
a big thing. It's not news to them. They've been developing drones for a long time. The munitions thing is surprising, but you know,
Well, even the but the drone thing,
yeah.
walk me through how unprepared y'all are for the next fucking era of warfare.
so might be a little disturbing, and I'm not. I'm going to get pretty serious here. I think.
You're a former airman. Like, I mean, this is like you put these tactical strikes together for the United States of America for a long time. You're
Yes,
a
sir.
decorated fucking United States Air Force veteran. Like, this is
Yes.
your wheelhouse. You're an expert.
Yes. Yes, sir. So I think it looks at incompetence from the Biden to the Trump administration on the inability of certain people in positions of power to see the future of warfare and what was evolving in real time right in front of them. When I was in Ukraine, what's interesting is I was in Ukraine during the Biden administration too, right? And what I found interesting is that we would not share data from the European command in a way that could really help them with their targeting. So what did Ukraine do, guys? Ukraine built their own targeting solution set and their own way of identifying targets geographically that was outside sometimes of US capabilities. I hope people are listening to what I'm saying. Ukraine created their own ability to tactically strike with their own capabilities and their own engineering at a level we can't imagine, cheaper than we can imagine on every level. The Biden administration was mealy-mouthed and cowardly in that they would not fund them in a way to actually overwhelm Russian forces. And we did not have enough assets in place to see what was happening with warfare. But at least the Biden administration funded them to a degree where they could protect themselves. Break, when you go into the Trump administration, you have a president that played lip service going against Putin, but has fundamentally, right through action, said he supports the Russian regime based on how he's acting. So what we've done as a U.S. military is we can continue to spend billions on F-35 fighters, which are beautiful machines.
Mhm.
I love them. But if we went into a ground-to-ground drone warfare in certain parts of the world, the Ukrainians are the best in the world because they were fighting for their lives. And they were able to use a procurement system that we can't even imagine. They're able to spend monies the way we can't imagine. We talk about the conspiracy theories that somehow they're corrupt and all that kind of stuff. Yes, Ukraine had corruption. They had those type of things. But when you have this ability, or when you have this mortal danger from this huge country where you have to develop, you have to be faster than everybody else. They were able to do that, and we missed that opportunity. Every NATO country should have been side saddle with Ukraine, helping them and understanding why their actual warfare was so advanced and why during the last NATO exercise they took out American troops with drones and we had no idea what to do. We are in trouble. And right now, we need an administration, not Donald Trump and his bunch of lackeys, some idiot like Pete Hegseth, right? An idiot DNI like Tulsi Gabbard, generals that are afraid to speak out, generals that have no moral goddamn backbone, and they're sitting there allowing Ukrainian people to be killed. But the side thing, the downstream effect of this is we should have been there learning how to fight the very thing that we're fighting today against Iran. And because of bad decision making, immorality, and a lack of ethics, and the inability to see the future based on the kind of people we put in office, we need to have adults in the room at least now. But I still believe we still got 2 to 3 years of hell before we get there. That's why I think we have our issues. That's why I think the United States is in trouble, because it's a combination of cowardice, fecklessness, and then specific undermining of the American way, which you're seeing in this administration.
When you say 2 years of hell, do you mean 2 years of hell on the battlefield or 2 years of hell in general? Because I mean, both are true probably, but what are you saying about the battlefield in particular?
I was saying the years of hell that were coming as U.S. years of hell without recognizing what we need to do and continuing to expend ordnance and start wars without understanding the strategic objectives or why we're even there, because we do know in some respects it seems to be it's more like personal motivation for Trump in so many different ways rather than what's best for the American people.
I mean, now it is, but today he's calling for unconditional surrender. You know, he just called on the Iranians to unconditionally surrender to him.
Did you see that?
I mean, what does that even mean?
I demand unconditional surrender. And the foreign minister of Iran said, and I quote, "Whatever, dude, we're just waiting for you. We're waiting for you to get here."
I call on Fort Knox to deliver me $1 billion in gold.
Yeah, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. But you don't have Truth Social. If you had Truth Social, maybe you could make it happen. But it is stunning that he's making these claims. I mean, he's still the president of the United States, and he's ordering a sovereign nation to surrender to him based on his will and demand. I mean, it's when you think about how ridiculous that is in the context of where we are in the last 80 years in American and global history, it's just insane.
Yes.
It's insane.
Well, I mean, you know, like it's in keeping with how fucking delusional that giant thumb is, right? Like he's delusional. He thinks that he could go lay down your weapons and people will just lay down their weapons. Dude, the myth of Trump has been busted. It is busted. Like I'm watching Iran literally pick off fucking the United States everywhere in the Middle East. I don't know if this is true, Den. There isn't a fucking U.S. military installation in that entire region that hasn't been touched deeply and dearly by the Iranian people. They're winning this fucking war. And I fucking hate Iran. Like I don't hate the Iranian people. I hate the regime. And when you start a war like this and get exposed like this, it speak to the morale of the fucking veterans involved. I mean, you got a rack, you like a rack of fucking medals and commendations because you did this work. You targeted people. You mission planned for a living. How do you mission plan this when you're like, oh fuck, we got to move everything into the Indian Ocean? Like I mean, seriously.
I think what's amazing is that we can destroy billions of dollars of infrastructure. We have an amazing, and Dean, I love my Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps brothers and sisters, Army brothers and sisters. I love them. They're fantastic. They're incredible war fighters. The issue is when you go into an asymmetric battlefield, you have to mission plan in a different way. And right now we're in an asymmetric battlefield that's very difficult to overcome because we still have 92 million people in a huge country with mountains and stuff. So I just oversimplified that a little bit, but so we have all of that going on right now. But I think based on the asymmetric way that war is being fought now, not just with drones, but technology, we also have the other thing here that you can use drones without technology. And that's what we're not really thinking about is how do we fight an asymmetric threat that can use or not use technology with lethality we can't imagine in drones. And I think that's the challenge with mission planning today.
You've got a huge task that you've got to deal with here in Denver. It's a big chore you've got.
Oh, it's up to him.
You're going to save America based on the rigged drones.
Dear Lord, Dean Blundell.
It's up to you.
Hey, Zev, once I'm president, I'll try to deal with this in a way that makes sense.
Wait, is that an announcement? Are you making an announcement? Are you running?
We need to get him on the inside. Yeah. Once he becomes president,
I mean,
we talked about it. When he becomes president,
Uh-oh.
you see, they cut him off for just even suggesting that.
Dean,
That's how.
we just got cyber attacked once.
Yeah, you're like, oh, no, he's back. He's back.
He's back. Dean's back. Dean's back. Dean's back. Dean's back. We see him.
But you've been a great president. I mean, you can't be worse than the current guy. I mean,
I can't be worse.
That could be a tagline.
I can't. That's right. Vote for Denver. He can't be worse.
He can't be worse than that guy.
He can't be worse than that guy. But yeah,
no, I mean, you'd be a huge upgrade from where we are today. It is beyond belief sometimes when you wake up and read the news and you see what's going on. Just on a purely just daily basis, how concerned are you about what's going to happen in Iran? Like, I'm really worried that things are going to, potentially just become completely uncontrollable. You've got, is this an uncontrollable theater now? You've got people coming in from the Kurds are coming in from Syria. I'm not sure how serious a threat that is, but it's happening.
It's happening.
You've got, there's a lot that could go wrong.
There is. I think there's a possibility that Iran really takes control of this because of the asymmetric way. We're not willing to expend that kind of ordnance, so we keep running out of missiles, and that's a whole nother ball of wax right there. But I do believe that, the thing is too, Zev, is we don't want to overestimate Iran's capabilities either. So that's the thing is I don't know the order of battle from Iran, so I have to be very careful how I state this. It's very, very, I would say it's probable that we're still going to overwhelm, and we have most of their air defenses. We're going to take out specific strategic targets that are very damaging to Iran. The issue that I have is I don't know their actual inventory of Shaheds or other types of FPV drones, but I got a feeling it's in the tens of thousands. And have we seen the big volleys yet based on desperation from Iran? And my fear is that they desperately shoot a number of Shaheds at a target, maybe blindly, and they get lucky. And if that were to happen and it's a big base explosion or it's something that we can't imagine or it's somewhere in the Straits of Hormuz, that's the stuff that I worry about. How do we actually deal with that in an asymmetric way? So that's where because we really aren't seeing the long-term effects because, again, of the incompetence of the administration. I don't think they ever thought. Did you think, Zev and Dean, that they think they'd shoot missiles in the UAE? That Shaheds would be heading in the UAE? They had no idea. They had no idea.
I didn't think they thought about anything. I think they saw Israel.
I was unaware of the capability of Iran. And you know what? Donald Trump even said the same thing for all of what he says being ridiculous. He's like, yeah, we were surprised. I'm like, it's your job not to be surprised by these things. Mitigate those kinds of risks, right? Like, it's your fucking job. It's the only job you have, right?
They not a lot of talent there, but I do appreciate you guys asking me this. This is the kind of stuff I love to talk about. It's in my comfort zone, so I do appreciate that.
Oh, buddy, yeah. No, you're an expert at it. Really appreciate you being here, pal.
Oh,
Thank you for being here. It's awesome to have you in Canada, and Canada appreciates you. And I hope you enjoy the Canadian niceness.
Morse code. Help me. I'm in Canada. I'm in Toronto.
I'm eating poutine again.
Dear God.
Did you have poutine yet? Have you had poutine?
I've had poutine in the past, but so far, Dean says I haven't been in Canada long enough to be graced with poutine. So
no, 7 days before he's poutine worthy.
Oh, really?
Sure.
You can just order poutine on DoorDash these days. It's arriving. They've really they've upscaled poutine in many ways. There's like a whole variety of different kinds of poutine.
Yeah.
I've been locked in this room, Zev. I can't get out.
You may never get out. You may be stuck there forever.
I've been
Canadian flag.
I've been listening to the Canadian national anthem for 72 hours straight, no sleep. But let me tell you,
honestly, I've got
bright lights
toothpicks.
shining
I
at
go
you.
into that room. I go like this. I'm like, look at the flag, and then the strobe lights start, and he's got the
Canadian interrogators. They're the best.
Yeah,
they're the best.
Oh, yeah, because we
waterboarding was tough.
We stopped midway. Well, we waterboard with whiskey here, and so we've had a great time.
I've never felt better during interrogation. But guys, it's been great to be here. Thank you for having me. I know you guys have a lot to talk about, but I appreciate you both so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Denver Riggleman.
Thank you, guys.
Great to see you, and welcome to the show. That's awesome. So fun, so funny too. Are you still there, Dean? Can you hear me? You can't hear me. Why?
Hang on, I lost audio. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I lost audio. I'll go back. I'll go out and come back in. Just tell the people a pretty story, dude.
I'll tell the people a pretty story. Isn't that nice? DeanBlundell.substack.com and Denver Riggleman. Denver Riggleman, of course, the former congressman, was an investigator for the January 6th committee, doing a lot of great work still in intelligence and AI and a whole bunch of other things. And it's awesome to have someone like Denver join us on Substack, but also on Fivestack. We have so many other stories to get to today. It's actually, oh, look, there's two of you now. Ooh.
Oh, hi there, everybody.
I'll remove one of you and do this.
Thank you.
Boy, there's a lot of news still to get to. I
Yeah.
wanted to share so much with you today. How much time we got? What's your time like? You still good till the
We're
top of the
good.
hour here?
We're
Okay.
good. Absolutely, we are. Yeah, but
You know, I put out a story today. This would be also part of the Epstein thing about Clinton and about what happened in the 1990s. It sounds like the most obscure kind of story you've ever heard about. And it looks at the role that Epstein played in derailing the Middle East peace talks under Clinton's presidency, which on the surface seems like it's possible, it's likely. But when you really dig into it, when you really dig into all the people that he had around him, whether it's Ehud Barak or the Norwegian prime minister who was the guy negotiating the Oslo peace accords, by the way, the same guy that was arrested last week was the guy negotiating the Oslo peace accords. You realize that the Israelis did a very strategically smart thing in that they were able to start the peace accord. Remember that big handshake on the White House lawn with Rabin and Arafat.
Yitzhak Rabin and Arafat and Bill Clinton standing behind him, and he's got his arms out like this, and he's like this. I've just fucking brought peace to the Middle East. It's going to be great. Yeah.
As it turns out, that was not when peace happened, because in the following year and a half, that's when Epstein's 17 visits to the White House happened. And his connections to the Rothschilds again, and his Clinton's connections to the Rothschilds as well, and desire. And I heard this directly from Ari Ben Menashe, that to scuttle those talks, to scuttle the efforts to bring peace to Israel and Palestine, which would have been game changing. And the reason why I think it's important today is because it's the same thing. I mean, we're watching Donald Trump go to war because of Israel in Iran. I mean, that's basically the story. You can call it, say it a million different ways, and you can say many different excuses. But essentially, America is backing Israel in this war, and we would never have even gotten here if the peace talks back in the 90s had been successful as they should have been. And who are the people who are constantly doing this? It's the same people. Bibi Netanyahu was still back then opposing the peace talks. Still today, he's the guy encouraging the attacks on Iran. And so it's not like that it's a different set of circumstances. It's the same set of different circumstances, but the same people and the same network of 40 years controlling American foreign policy to the point where we may not even have our own foreign policy, it looks like.
I don't think you do. And it was interesting because I had a very long conversation with our friend Steve Schmidt from The Warning today. And this was a huge topic of conversation where we were discussing what Bibi Netanyahu is to the Israeli people, much like what Donald Trump is to the American people, which a lot of people don't understand, number one. Number two, and I think this is a very important point to bring up, Bibi Netanyahu does not want peace in the Middle East. I mean, that guy's not in power unless there is chaos in the Middle East, right? And the third part of this that I think is really important is the anti-Semitism part. It's the use of anti-Semitism as a phrase to paint people with a scarlet letter who do not buy into what Benjamin Netanyahu wants Israel to become. And what he wants Israel to become is a dictatorial state. And he does it out of self-preservation. And so, the generational damage that Bibi Netanyahu and his party of sycophantic xenophobes and fascists, they're fascists, and which is hard to imagine when you consider the history of the Israeli people, the Jewish people who are so war weary. You're Jewish, you've got family there, and I'd love for you to speak to that as well. Just the reputational damage he is doing to what Israel was, what Israel is, and the goodwill towards Jewish people, not just in Israel, but around the world. It is catastrophic. And I think over the next, year to 3 years, because we're starting to find out now how compromised the United States government is, how compromised the Canadian government has been in the past by the interests that are attached to Netanyahu and the people that make Netanyahu fucking possible. Not Israel. This is not about the Israeli people. They are being held hostage by Benjamin Netanyahu in as much as the United States is being held hostage by Donald Trump. And I think it's very important for people to prepare themselves to be able to call a spade when it comes to foreign interference in the United States. Because Donald Trump is not fighting a war for Americans. Donald Trump is not fighting a war to keep America safe. And I go back to the fucking ridiculous fucking comment that Marco Rubio made the other day, where they're like, "Hey, is this about regime change?" He goes, "No, this is about defending Americans." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? This isn't like you guys fucking you and Israel attacked the shit out of Iran." They're like, "Well, Israel was getting ready to attack Iran. We knew that if they did that, then Iran would attack Americans all over the world. So we defensively but proactively attacked Iran." That notion is so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
To anybody who can fucking put like any circus monkey that can put a square peg in a square hole, someone with minimal IQ, someone who doesn't need to understand operational control, someone who doesn't need to understand what it's like to conduct a war or why you strike targets, someone who doesn't need to understand foreign policy. That in itself not only didn't make any sense, let me put it in layman's terms. What he said was, it's defensive because we knew if Israel did it, they would attack us. So we just attacked all these fucking people ahead of time. So we consider that to be proactively defensive. That doesn't make any fucking congruent sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And the thing, the earlier part of what you said was so true. You know, firstly, Israel is being held captive by this foreign policy. I don't believe that the majority of Israelis support all this kind of militarization of the region. I don't think it's what they do at all. And I think Bibi Netanyahu is basically, you know, gotten power crazy. He's basically consumed all this power, has all this power, and knows that he could basically run the American presidency like it's a puppet, you know, and to have control over the US presidency like it's a puppet regime is very dangerous to the world, because there's no doubt in my mind that that particular guy should not be in charge of running the world right now. And yet he seems to have acquired it through people like Jeffrey Epstein and the like, which is, you know, why I struggle so much. Ellie's joined us, by the way. And, hello, Ellie.
Oh, Ellie. Hi, Ellie.
Because Ellie has an amazing story as well on that she's been working on, also related to Jeffrey Epstein. That's I just wanted to share with everyone, because Ellie, your work has been great on this issue of Michael Wolff, has been so interesting. And now you're saying that Michael Wolff was not just a writer, not just a journalist, as we lose Dean again, but even an agent, like a intelligence operative running between Trump and Epstein.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't know if it was, you know, who does that benefit? Is it just to benefit Michael Wolff? Is it to benefit the people involved? But like, now that we see what he was saying to the American public versus what he was saying to Jeffrey Epstein, you know, and that it was all benefited Epstein and it benefited Michael Wolff. You now have to say, well, he had a parallel relationship with Donald Trump. So is the relationship that he's had with Donald Trump, where he's had the most access of anyone to the White House, to tell those stories and to sell those books? Or is there something more? Because we have emails from Epstein during the Mueller investigation saying he's sending things to Bill Barr, and he's like,
who was sending things to Bill Barr?
Well, so Epstein is saying it's finished, and Michael Wolff is saying, give me a ballpark, and Epstein is saying, well, he's got it, you know, I sent it off, we need a leak. And it's the, you know, the subject is, he said it's up to Bill Barr now, and the subject is Mueller. So it's like, I don't know what that means, but it's something that Michael Wolff knows what that means. And these are all things that he had available to talk about, and he's never mentioned.
You think Epstein fed something to Barr that included that involved Mueller?
I don't know.
The Mueller investigation? Wow, that is amazing news. I mean, it's stunning, but not that surprising. I think the Epstein network is so vast and reaches so many different corners, and Michael Wolff's role is really weird. He gets all this access to Donald Trump. He gets all this access to Jeffrey Epstein, which, you know, and sometimes these two people don't coincide with each other, or supposedly don't agree with each other. But somehow he continues to gain this unlimited access to both sides, which to me is strange. It's strange credulity that he was doing that just because. But on the other hand, it's much more believable to me that, you know, if Trump and Epstein are actually working together, but they can't talk to each other because one is the president of the United States and the other is a convicted sex criminal, well, wouldn't it be great to then have Michael Wolff going back and forth, sharing information with the president, and then Epstein and back again? And that to me is, where it gets really, really challenging, especially when we talk about things like Mueller or investigations into Russian collusion by the president. If Epstein was running interference and Michael Wolff was running back and forth on that interference, then that is, wow, that's a pretty sensational thing. That's not writing a novel.
Right. And on just on the side of journalism, like there's multiple examples. And again, I've gotten through 100 pages of 1,800 pages of Michael Wolff emails. So like I've got a lot
more to
dig into. I wrote a 2,000 word article on 100 pages of his emails. So there's a lot more to find. But like on the side of journalism, you see him writing articles and then Epstein disappearing and the newspaper or the magazine going, where's Epstein? We need to publish this. We need to get the final word. And Michael Wolff's like, I don't know where he went. I'm just the journalist. What do I know? And then he's sending everything to Epstein. And like, he totally knows where Epstein is. He's talking to Epstein. He did the same thing with James Patterson's book. He calls the publisher and goes, hey, can I read a manuscript before it's published about the Epstein book? And they're like, yeah, but you got to sign an NDA. I mean, this is really, secretive. It's a big deal. He goes, yeah, no big deal. I'll sign an NDA. Sends the whole email thread to Epstein. The book is about Epstein. He signs an NDA and then he sends the whole thing to Epstein. Like, so he wasn't on the side of journalism and proper handling of information. He was serving a person and he was serving himself too. But like, I see that the potential is there for the same thing to happen with Donald Trump, but we don't have those emails, right? This is not the Donald Trump investigation.
He doesn't use email.
We don't have everything.
That's why.
Right.
We would have them otherwise.
No. Yeah.
It's sorry, Dean, I know you want to jump in here, but I just was really struck by the ability of Michael Wolff to run around and pitch the stuff on both sides and to get book deals on the one side and also share information back and forth and get information that was national security. But when I asked him about whether there were any business deals between Epstein and Trump directly, which he had never written about, he wrote so many books, but in none of his books did he say, hey, Epstein made this money off a Trump thing and Trump made this money off an Epstein thing, or they worked on a tax dodge together. Not once did they write about any of that, including with the Lama Tea House. And when I asked him, he said, oh, yeah, there are many instances where Epstein helped Trump with money. And I said, like what? And he said, it gave me an example of a tax dodge. But that's not in his book. In his books where he could have written about Trump and Epstein working together, he didn't write about it. And he had awareness. He had knowledge about it. Yeah. So it makes it questionable.
He was crushing stories and journalists as early as 2011 who were writing about Epstein. He was going out and he's like, you want me to stop this story? Like he was being like a mobster journalist and like making sure that the wrong narrative, quote unquote, did not get out. And it was super shady.
Who, Michael Wolff was doing that with Jeffrey Epstein? Back and forth in the exchanges that you have. Your reporting, Ellie, is incredible. Everybody, please smash the Chiron at the top and follow Ellie Leonard. She's true blue. She's one of the good ones. And by the way, got your first death threat the other day, which is great. I called you a rookie, and I'm like, hey, nice work. But Fivestack
was very nice about getting that guy off the internet. So we're good.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. They're very different about that on Twitter. Let me explain that. But the thing that I go back to with Michael Wolff, and it's the same problem I have with Michael Cohen. It's the same problem I have with Howard Lutnick. It's the same problem I have with Bill Clinton. Is the foresight, the knowledge that everybody has about what went on, but also the self-dealing that went around that foresight and knowledge. And Michael Wolff's an interesting character because that guy has not stopped grifting, even now that we have all this information. And there's this shamelessness around Michael Wolff that is so fucking crazy that now that you're coming out with this incredible reporting, Ellie, and digging into the relationship, it appears to me, I could be wrong, that there's been an exchange of money between Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff at some point. Michael Wolff doesn't appear to me to be the kind of individual who's going to do any of this shit for fucking free.
No. This is all for me.
And something that he heard, and I can't pinpoint where he said it, is he made it sound like Epstein begged him to do a book about him. Like he approached him and said, I want you to do this, and he didn't want to do it. And from the emails, it doesn't sound like that at all. It sounds like Michael Wolff was begging to write a book about Jeffrey Epstein, and he kept asking, when are we going to meet? When are we going to interview? Can I meet you in Paris? Can I meet you in here? Can I meet you here? Can you come to the island? You know, it was all in there.
You know, it's not a coincidence that there was a documentary that was made by Steve Bannon involving a 60-minute style interview with Jeffrey Epstein that was never released. There's a book written about Jeffrey Epstein written by Michael Wolff that was never released and no one ever wanted to publish. You know, these guys are all intelligence professionals. I mean, I don't know about Michael Wolff being an intelligence professional, but surely Bannon is. Bannon's been associated with the Chinese and various Chinese intelligence efforts. You've got Jeffrey Epstein involved with the Israelis and the Russians. You've got Donald Trump involved with the Russians and Israelis as well. You've got, you know, there's and also the mob, which was, it's interesting. We started off the show talking about this investigation into Epstein's drug trafficking business, apparently, that was run by the DEA for several years, involving the Genovese family. And this is what it is. You know, when this whole giant network is the mob, the American mob, as we've come to know it, the Russian oligarchy, which is largely Jewish to some extent, which also has a lot of roots in Israel, and the intersection of the FSB and the Russian intelligence services with the Israeli military intelligence. And that whole thing, that whole network of bushiness and criminality and intelligence and whatever it is that you put in there is what has attacked America and what has created the deep state, which has gone from being, you know, that thing that we just had to deal with to consuming the entire government of America. And every single story in today's show has sort of had, and even the drones, they're all part of the same thing. And going to war with Iran is the same thing. It's all about being controlled by this amorphous criminal, entity that has taken over America and the world.
And you look at Bannon and Epstein and Michael Wolff, and they were all chummy. They were like a little club. They were going to dinner all the time. They were meeting each other all the time. And there's this idea that because of Michael Wolff's book, Bannon got kicked off Breitbart, but they're all hanging out. Like, I don't think he kicked him off Breitbart. I think they were still friends and still going to dinner after that happened. So they were constantly together. There's so many emails about who's meeting who and who's eating with who. And Woody is always there. Woody's always eating dinner with them, no matter where they go. So.
And who started Breitbart? Bibi Netanyahu, which is just another sort of like shake.
Is that a true story? He started Breitbart?
It is true. It's 100% true. There's a photograph of Bibi at the launch of Breitbart. He's having a meeting with them, and they're all, shaking hands, very excited about this new venture. A new news network.
And it's funny, obviously because of this dump. And Ellie, I got a separate question for you about the latest, specifically the 53 pages that have somehow apparently magically appeared again. I guess
only 16.
Only 16 of the 53. So get to that in just a second, and then we'll let you go. Really appreciate you being here. Your must watch, must read. Everybody give Ellie a follow. She's one of my favorite people in the world.
Sure is.
The thing about it is that it doesn't, it requires a mass effort. Obviously, you and your team, and you've got a whole bunch of Substackers and people that you trust that are combing through this, that are open source and trying to figure this stuff out. But you don't have to dig very far. Right?
Mm-mm.
Like your team, this is just a matter of turning some pages, clicking to the next page and going, aha. And you've had hundreds of those aha moments. And those aha moments that you're having, they come with, testimony under oath from victims. They come with FBI reports that are, that are created not because someone wanted to get somebody. They are created because there was a crime. And these FBI reports and these emails that have all been in the hands of the Department of Justice through 4, maybe 5 different regimes / administrations, it's gotta be, at some point in time, you must put your glasses down slowly, right, on your computer, and go, if I can find this tonight, and this has existed for 10 to 15 to 20 years. What the fuck is wrong with my country? Are you having any of those moments?
Yeah, it's called searching. It's called Googling. It's how long have we had Google? We've had it not as long as we've had these files. So would you go in the search bar, because they have that handy dandy Epstein DOJ search, library, which changes every day because they pull things out. you start to learn how to search for things, right? It's not just like searching Prince Andrew or Donald Trump. You start to learn nicknames and pseudonyms. You learn back, last name first, first name last. You learn how to say, like, what does something look like in an email? How do I look up a certain date? Okay, now I can find all the emails from that certain date. You start to get a little trickier about how to find things. But if you just sit there and scroll, you will find something every day. You will find
Yeah.
something that is in there every single day where you go, hold on, hold on. I see a name. I see a name. I mean, every day you'll find a name of an unredacted survivor, every single day. Like those are prevalent. But every day you'll start to find little things like that picture of Howard Lutnick just walking around on the island in his blue shirt and his khaki shorts. Like that's just in there. And there's enough people out here looking through those files that they're going to actually find that. Whereas, they're frantically searching through these things at the DOJ, trying to find those things, and they don't have enough people and they don't have enough manpower. And so we're going to find them first. That's just inevitably the numbers say that we will find those things first. And that's why things get pulled off the DOJ, because they're scared.
I think Dean keeps answering his notifications and gets cut off, unfortunately. But it is true that there is a lot of information there, and the crowd is just better equipped. We have way more people to find all the stuff than the DOJ is, and that's why they can't keep up with it. It's like whack-a-mole. There's no ways they can keep up with everything that's been going on, which is thankful. I mean, we'll sure be thankful for that, because God knows if we didn't have that advantage, I'd be really annoyed. While we wait for his Dean again, but I just want to talk about that. I think he wanted to talk about this as well. What are we looking at here? This is the one of these documents that has come out.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest of the three that we have.
So this is, these 50 pages involving new allegations against Donald Trump by a then 13-year-old, though she's reporting it much later, about her apparent rapes and abductions at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Now, these documents disappeared and now they returned recently. Is that right? They just sort of magically returned today?
They did, but not all of them. So according to the journalists at NPR, they did some sort of algorithm. I was trying to reiterate what they had told me, how they found them, because they didn't have the actual file numbers. They had a way of finding it mathematically, that there were 53 missing pages. And so we got 16 of those pages, which means that the fourth interview, because we know there's 4 interviews, is the longest, and that's 37 pages, and we still don't have that, but we do have a lot of information. I thought I could just sit down and read 16 pages in an hour, and I got through about maybe half of it, because you keep stopping and you keep finding things. You go, oh, I got to go look that up, and oh, I got to go find that. And one of the things that I really got caught on was this Mr. Atkins, who is supposedly associated with the Ohio education system, which is very obviously connected with Leslie Wexner. That's his home digs, and that's where he spends all his money, is on like Ohio State, University of Ohio, that type of thing. And supposedly he is either a dean or someone who works in finances. I'm trying to dig through faculty records and beneficiary records for the schools to see if there's anybody, because his name is also phonetic, they said, so it could be spelled differently. So we don't exactly know who he is, but there's a lot of very specific details in this that, objectively, when you're looking at an interview and you think FBI has interviewed the same woman 4 times, which lends credibility to it.
Yeah.
You also find details that are so unique and specific that you think that would be really hard to make up. Like discussions of certain concerts and places where you can actually go back and you can find that concert occurred, and that she lived on an island, and how many people lived on the island, and how she would have gotten there, and the type of cologne that triggered her. She smelled cologne on a certain person, and she was triggered because she remembered that it was the cologne that Epstein was wearing. And you can look back at when that cologne was manufactured, and wouldn't you know, it was right around the same time. And there was just really, really specific details in this that I found interesting, to say the least, because hypothetically, had it been not true, you would have to be highly creative to create this story, because it was just so specific and searchable.
Now, this all took place in the 1980s, right? I mean, that's what they're suggesting. Now, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, to our knowledge, had not met until the late 80s, right?
Right.
And yet they're described in this affidavit as having met, or at
Right.
least having a conversation about some stuff. And that Jeffrey Epstein, is it Jeffrey Epstein that brought this victim to Donald Trump? And then Donald Trump proceeded to not like this person because she was boyish looking. And then ultimately everyone left the room and he apparently assaulted her. She bit him on his penis, allegedly, and then he beat her. That's the story, essentially, in this, which is horrific on every level. And yet to think about it as being something done by the president of the United States is you can't even think about it. It's just beyond belief.
Right.
And yet it makes a claim that Epstein and Trump knew each other back then.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not. I mean, I think we found with a lot of people that they have met each other earlier than is on the record. I think we've seen that with a few people along the way. But also he was working several years in finance by this time. He knew Ace Greenberg. He knew big people in New York City. Her mother worked in real estate. They were all involved with her mother and her mother's business. So it's not unlikely that they would potentially have been in the same circles as Donald Trump. So yes, on the record, he didn't meet him till later, but like there's a lot of on the record stuff that I guess turned out to not be true as far as
right.
You know,
I mean, it certainly is. It opens up a whole different world when you think about the early 80s and what Donald Trump was like in the early 80s as he was entering Manhattan, dealing with, all these big mobsters and the cement industry and Cohen, his lawyer, being the architect of his rise. That whole scene was very different back then. To imagine now Jeffrey Epstein as part of that Cohen, Genovese, Gambino era. And we see today this drug trafficking investigation and this potential Epstein drug trafficking operation. It just begins to expand your view of all this and think, what really what kind of monster as a network, what kind of octopus are we really dealing with? One that has tentacles in the worst parts of the world, doing the worst possible things to people.
And she mentions, it's a lighter story, but like she mentions being, she was a relatively naive child. Like she wasn't necessarily somebody who was coming from a horrible home and neglected, but she mentions like being abused and coming back and worrying about her mother because she'd pierced her ears and she thought she'd get in trouble for that, but also that she'd never had drugs before and she was offered drugs by Epstein. And then she remembers over a next period of time that same drug that she was offered sort of spread around the island where she lived, which was not hugely populated. If it is where I think it was about 38,000 people. But that same drug started to spread through the schools and through the system, and she was hearing more and more about it. And she thought that potentially he was, he and his people might have been behind that spread.
I mean, that is also just unbelievable when you think about how would he have achieved all on his own? The amount of time it would take to run, drug trafficking operations, influence operations, ruin the economy, steal money, launder money. When would you possibly do all of this? And yet it gives you a sense of how big this network really is and how many people it involves and how profitable it's been.
Mr. Atkins. I wonder if that's actually his name. I thought about maybe that could have been Leslie Wexner from the description, but I don't know. Maybe not.
I could not find him. I did an exhaustive search yesterday of him, and I could not find his name in existence. So, I'm not saying
phonetic. They say phonetic, but then the same name shows up in the journals, the Unknown Survivors journals, and it could be a coincidence, but that's the same name.
And the Ohio University, of course, well known for its own. Is that the same one as the scandal was? Is it the same university? It's Ohio State,
yes, and it's very heavily funded by Leslie Wexner. I mean, it's there are connections there. I have to figure out who this guy is because maybe not even using his actual name. I don't know, but we have to, once we figure out some of these dots and connect them, then we can figure out who Mr. Atkins is, if he is who he says he is.
The claim here, I think, is that he was a senior financial administrator at the university, but we could not find a single person that worked there under that name. So, he
But I
either
mean,
was using.
would he
Yeah.
have said that he was? You know, maybe he wasn't. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. No, of course, everything here. And there's this other guy, this Cecil, who's a black male accountant. We just don't know much about him either. Great work, Ellie, as always. I don't know what happened to Dean. I think he's just abandoned us today. So he's got a lot going on right now. So, but thank you very much for bringing us your story on Wolf, and thank you for sharing your knowledge about these 2 inside documents that the DOJ has finally released. This story is not going anywhere. I mean, if there was any doubt that Epstein was going to disappear, I thought about it. It's not going anywhere. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger every second. And yesterday we learned about Pam Bondi testifying soon. Lutnick's going to testify soon. These heads are going to start rolling. They have to at some point. It's no, this administration can't stay afloat if it doesn't start losing some of this weight. Maybe not Bondi, but certainly it seems like Lutnick. I always say it wrong. But Lutnick is going to be the one to go because, it just, there's too much involved there, and it's going to continue to be the case.
Right. Well, thank you for having me.
It's awesome having you here. And thank you at home for being here on the Fivestack. Everyone should check out Ellie Leonard, the Panicked Writer. Everyone should check out Denver Riggleman at Breach, I think is what his Substack is called. And Dean Blundell at deanblundell.substack.com. You can find my work at narrative.org. And I just posted a story about Clinton and Oslo, the Oslo Accords. Might sound a little bit wonky to you, but it's worth your time. All about how Epstein would have rigged the peace process in the 1990s. Have a great weekend, Ellie. We shall see you again soon. I'm sure sooner than we could possibly imagine. Okay, bye everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.